Thanks in large part to Lee Van Cleef, Death Rides a Horse makes for the perfect viewing experience after Clint Eastwood's The Man with No Name trilogy. Although The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly is generally considered the quintessential Clint Eastwood western, it's far more than just a vehicle for the actor. As indicated by its title, it's really a movie driven by a trio of stars, not just Eastwood. The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly wouldn't have worked without the compelling performances offered by Eli Wallach and Lee Van Cleef. The latter is similarly vital to For a Few Dollars More as well. Lee Van Cleef is in top form in The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly, which sees him play the film's villain to sinister perfection. His ruthless yet calm demeanor allows his character, known only by the nickname of Angel Eyes in the movie, to stand out as one of the greatest Western villains of all time. But of course, The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly and For a Few Dollars More are hardly the only Westerns to benefit from the actor's presence in the cast. Lee Van Cleef actually made several quality Westerns worth watching, including Death Rides a Horse. Death Rides a Horse is an entertaining 1960s spaghetti Western. It continues a great Western trend for Lee Van Cleef. Lee Van Cleef with a gun in Death Rides a Horse. Having found success working in great spaghetti westerns like The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly and For a Few Dollars More, Van Cleef continued to dabble in the subgenre. One of the roles he picked up was Ryan in Death Rides a Horse, which gave him top billing. His co-star was John Philip Law, a gunfighter looking for revenge against the outlaws that killed his family. This puts him in conflict with Ryan, a man who unjustly went to prison after he was falsely accused as an accomplice to the crime. Naturally, his reputation makes him and Bill enemies, but as the story progresses, they have to put their differences aside and team up against the real killers. Because Ryan has history with the gang, whether he was actually a party to the murders or not, there's nothing friendly about their alliance. It's not even clear if it will last, particularly when it becomes apparent that perhaps Ryan is hiding more than he lets on. All of this makes for an interesting dynamic, and one that feels tailor-made for a Western setting. And in keeping with the expectations of the genre, their conflict comes to a head in an exciting climax. Death Rides a Horse offers several great parallels to Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy. Lee Van Cleef's work in Sergio Leone's movies has a clear influence on Death Rides a Horse. The circumstances differ, but the partnership between Bill and Ryan is reminiscent of one of the best parts of The Man with No Name trilogy. In For a Few Dollars More, Clint Eastwood's Manco is a gunslinger who agrees to help the revenge-seeking Mortimer find Indio, the gang leader responsible for his sister's death. With Van Cleef playing an aging cowboy opposite Eastwood's much younger protagonist, the age difference factors heavily into their dynamic. The same can be said of the relationship that forms between Bill and Ryan, who is seen as the wiser and more experienced of the two. Even the goals of the main characters are in line with each other. Revenge is ultimately the primary motive of Lee Van Cleef's character in Death Rides a Horse and For a Few Dollars More. Yet, he's still the more calculated member of the duo in both instances, with his partner being the more impulsive, action-oriented type. The similarities to The Man with No Name trilogy also extend to the overall tone of the film, and they make sense when considering its background. The screenplay for Death Rides a Horse was penned by genre veteran Luciano Vincenzoni, who co-wrote both For a Few Dollars More and The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly. Further strengthening the comparison is the music. Ennio Morricone, who famously composed the iconic music behind Sergio Leone's Dollars movies, also developed the soundtrack for Death Rides a Horse. Death Rides a Horse has one of Lee Van Cleef's best performances. Lee Van Cleef in Death Rides a Horse. Another element that Death Rides a Horse shares in common with Clint Eastwood's spaghetti westerns is that they feature extraordinary performances from Lee Van Cleef. As evidenced by both For a Few Dollars More and Death Rides a Horse, Angel Eyes is only one facet of the actor's legacy. He can be compelling whether he's a hero or a villain. That said, he's rarely a straight-laced protagonist, given that Van Cleef excels in playing layered, gritty characters.